Boeing's decision to sell its Chicago headquarters for just $22 million, after purchasing it 2 decades earlier for $165 million, represents more than a bad real estate deal. It reflects a deeper economic and political failure that has unfolded in Illinois over the last generation. The 36-story tower along the Chicago River was once a symbol of prestige and confidence. In 2001, when Boeing chose Chicago over Dallas and Denver, the move was celebrated as a defining moment for the city. State and local leaders gathered to welcome Boeing CEO Phil Condit, praising the relocation as proof that Chicago could compete at the highest level of global business. The deal was backed by roughly $60 million in tax incentives, justified by promises of growth, influence, and long-term stability. Governor George Ryan projected an 11-to-1 return on investment. Mayor Richard Daley framed it as a civic triumph, and the press treated the announcement like a championship win. Boeing was expected to bring 500 high-paying executive and administrative jobs and reinforce Chicago's reputation as a world-class corporate hub. 2 decades later, the outcome looks very different. The headquarters building that was meant to anchor Chicago's corporate future ended up half-empty and sold for pennies on the dollar. When Boeing announced in May 2022 that it would relocate its headquarters to Virginia, company leadership still described the Chicago building as strategically important. That claim quickly unraveled. Within 18 months, occupancy had fallen to barely 52%. Tenants began exiting, and entire floors went dark. The tower at 100 North Riverside Plaza, once marketed as a symbol of Chicago's rise, instead became a visible marker of corporate retreat. Boeing continued paying carrying costs while searching unsuccessfully for a buyer willing to come close to the building's original valuation. The eventual sale to Hinz installed for $22 million locked in the loss. Boeing will now lease 3 floors through 2032, paying rent in a building it once owned outright. The company that arrived in Chicago as a celebrated prize now occupies space like any other tenant, its departure unfolding slowly but decisively. Boeing's exit was not an isolated event. In the span of just 7 weeks during the summer of 2022, Chicago lost 3 major corporate pillars. Boeing announced its move in May. Caterpillar followed in June by relocating its headquarters to Irving, Texas, and shortly thereafter Ken Griffin moved Citadel to Miami. Caterpillar's departure ended nearly a century-long presence in Illinois. Citadel, which manages more than $50 billion in assets and employed over 1,000 people in downtown Chicago, cited rising crime and employee concerns as key factors in its decision. Griffin, who had been one of the most influential figures in Chicago's financial sector for 30 years, left with significant capital, prestige, and political influence. The pattern did not stop there. PTX shifted its headquarters to Charlotte, Tyson Foods moved key operations to Arkansas, and other firms quietly reduced their footprint or expanded elsewhere instead of reinvesting locally. Independent rankings reflect this deterioration. CNBC has ranked Illinois among the least business-friendly states in the country, placing it 3rd from the bottom. The Tax Foundation reported that Illinois Business Climate Ranking dropped 10 spots in just 5 years, a decline unmatched anywhere else in the Midwest. High property taxes, overlapping layers of government, regulatory uncertainty, and approximately $140 billion in unfunded pension liabilities have combined to create a cycle of rising costs and fiscal pressure. As businesses leave or downsize, the tax base shrinks, forcing higher burdens on those that remain, which in turn accelerates further exits. Residents have followed the same path. Illinois has lost population for 10 consecutive years, including more than 56,000 people between July 2023 and July 2024 alone. Most are relocating to lower tax states with stronger job growth. Cook County lost roughly 58,000 residents in a single year, many of them higher-income households that account for a disproportionate share of income tax revenue. Their departure increases the fiscal strain on remaining residents and limits the city's ability to fund services without raising taxes further. The effects are visible across downtown Chicago. Office vacancy reached a record 26.5% in the first quarter of 2025, marking the 11th consecutive quarter of increases. Remote work accelerated the trend, but it merely exposed deeper problems that were already present, including crime concerns, high operating costs, and declining property values. Buildings once valued in the hundreds of millions of dollars now trade at steep discounts, and 19 major office properties have lost more than $2 billion in combined value over the past 2 years. City leadership points to new companies moving in, but those additions have not offset the scale of departures or the loss of headquarters-level influence. Chicago still hosts 35 Fortune 500 headquarters, second only to New York, but the trajectory is unmistakable. Other states are gaining what Illinois is losing. Texas now hosts more Fortune 500 companies than any other state, while Florida's corporate growth continues to outpace most of the nation. These states offer clear structural advantages: no state income tax, lower property taxes, simpler regulatory frameworks, and faster decision-making. For executives evaluating long-term costs and risk, the calculation is straightforward. Illinois is expensive, complex, and increasingly uncertain, while Texas and Florida are cheaper, more predictable, and more stable. These decisions are not driven by ideology but by operational reality. Boeing's leadership described its move to Virginia as a matter of efficiency and unused office space, yet Chicago was no longer even considered. That omission speaks louder than any explanation. The city that once won a heated bidding war in 2001, celebrated with red carpet events and promises of an 11-to-1 return on investment, was effectively bypassed 2 decades later. Illinois continues to challenge this narrative. Governor Pritzker points to record corporate expansions, but those figures are misleading, often counting small office openings or minor relocations that fail to offset the loss of marquee companies. The reality is that losing household name firms carries consequences far beyond immediate job losses. When Boeing left, it was not only 500 high-paying positions that disappeared, but also influence, credibility, and the symbolic weight that attracts other companies. Paul O'Connor, who helped recruit Boeing to Chicago in 2001, later reflected that the company's arrival gave Illinois validation, prestige, and 2 decades of economic lift. That lift is now gone. Ken Griffin's $600 million in local philanthropy left with Citadel, and Caterpillar's century-long presence in the state ended. Together, these departures erased the signal that Illinois was open for business and capable of hosting global headquarters. The city's response has been costly. Chicago is spending $250 million in taxpayer funds to convert vacant office buildings into apartments. While this may help fill empty space, apartments cannot replace the economic ecosystem created by thriving office towers. They generate less property tax revenue, do not support downtown restaurants at the same scale, and fail to produce the foot traffic that sustains retail. The transformation is necessary but imperfect, reflecting a downtown reinvented by necessity rather than choice. Even Boeing's former headquarters at 100 North Riverside Plaza tells this story of loss and adjustment. Hines, a well-capitalized developer, purchased the building and plans renovations to attract new tenants. The tower will eventually be occupied, but at rental rates far below what Boeing once paid. The financial loss has already been absorbed, first by Boeing, then by the state, which spent $60 million to secure the company 2 decades earlier. The human and symbolic costs are harder to quantify. Governor Ryan, who championed Boeing's arrival, is now in his 90s and later served time in federal prison. Mayor Daley, who celebrated the move, left office in 2011. The officials who applauded that 36-story tower are gone, yet the building remains half empty, a reminder of ambitions left unrealized. The ripple effects extend well beyond office space. Companies leave, workers follow, and the tax base shrinks. Illinois residents face higher taxes as high-income households depart. In Cook County alone, more than 58,000 residents left in a single year, many earning over $200,000. Their exit intensifies fiscal pressure and shifts the burden onto those who remain. Downtown Chicago, once the core of a dense corporate ecosystem, now carries record office vacancies. In the first quarter of 2025, the vacancy rate reached 26.5%, an all-time high and the 11th consecutive quarter of deterioration. Illinois is not entirely abandoned. Walgreens, Abbott Laboratories, and McDonald's remain headquartered in the state, reflecting its enduring advantages. O'Hare International Airport connects Chicago to global markets. 6 Class I railroads cross the state. The workforce is large and skilled, and the geography is central to national distribution. These strengths explain why some companies stay, but the broader trend is unmistakable. The state is shrinking while competitors expand. When Boeing bought its Chicago building in 2005, Illinois was still growing. Today, it is losing population, companies, and capital at the same time. This is not a sudden collapse, but a steady erosion of competitiveness. High property taxes, a complex bureaucracy, and roughly $140 billion in unfunded pension liabilities create a cycle of fiscal strain and corporate flight. Illinois spends more supporting retirees than investing in services that benefit current residents, leaving the state trapped in a structural imbalance. Businesses and people follow opportunity. Texas and Florida do not merely benefit from migration. They actively attract it through policy choices, infrastructure investment, and lower operating costs. Illinois now faces a clear choice: reform, adapt, or continue to lose ground. 2 days ago, Boeing made the outcome official. The 36-story symbol of Chicago's ambitions sold for less than the cost of a parking garage. The building purchased for $165 million sold for $22 million, a transaction that captures a much larger economic story. It is more than a sale. It is a warning. For decades, Illinois promised growth, investment, and prosperity. Today, it confronts declining population, a shrinking corporate presence, and diminishing influence. People, companies, and capital are leaving, and those who remain are paying for commitments that were never fulfilled. Illinois' story is now one of adaptation and urgency, with competitiveness no longer guaranteed and reform no longer optional.